Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great Monday. Thank you so much for coming in and watching this video. In this video, we're going to take a look at Hut 8. There's some news for them. There's also production updates for Hut 8, Bit Digital, Core Scientific, and Hive. So we'll get into all those. I'll put the chapters down below for you guys. You guys can follow it that way. And we're also going to take a look at the video that I did yesterday. I had one mistake. Iris Energy, their numbers. I used the fiscal year 2023 numbers instead of the H2 numbers, the second half numbers for the numbers. So we'll take a look at what that actually means. So I just want to get that corrected for you guys, and we'll see what else happens. We'll take a look at Bitcoin and miners as well. But as always, you guys know the drill here. This is not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research, and I'm investing in the following coins and companies. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. And I have a little stuffy nose right now, sinuses, allergies, I guess you could say, are triggering it. So we'll try and get back through this as best as we can. All right, so let's take a look at first. We'll take a look at the video from yesterday and the mistake that I had done. So here's that spreadsheet that we had yesterday. I had Iris Energy at, I think it was above 100,000 at that point for the break-even point with obviously their expenses, cost of electricity, things like that. If those things stayed the same and if Bitcoin got to, network hash rate got to 650 exahash, this is kind of where the break-even point would be. So that's updated now. I actually used the actual numbers for the H2, divided that by 6 months. It's still not as accurate as I would like it to be. I would have preferred much better to have the quarterly results. I think those would have been even more accurate. But this is kind of the ballpark that we're in right now. It could be plus or minus like all of these guys here. Okay. I doubt we're going to get Q3 results from them coming up here. They provide the results every 6 months. So we'll have to wait until sometime in probably February of next year to get the results for this current half that they're in. Okay, so just wanted to point that out to you guys. So that's at 70,000. So that's obviously much better than the 100,000. So just wanted to make my correction there. And I wanted to thank whoever pointed that out to me. I had the mistake. The only thing is I tried replying to it, but I did reply. The comment was already gone. So I do apologize for not remember who it was, but whoever it was, thank you so much for pointing this out. And this was obviously a big mistake there. Okay, let's get into the news that we do have here, obviously, on Hut 8. So Hut 8 provides update on business combination with the USBTC. I was a little surprised by this, actually. When I saw this, I thought this was already taken care of. You can kind of read over the fluff here, part of it, if you want. But here's the main guts of it all. Completion of the transaction remains subject to the remaining regulatory approvals, approval of the stockholders of USBTC, and other customary closing conditions of the transaction. So this part was the one that I was a little bit surprised at. The approval of stockholders of USBTC. I thought they would have voted already because we know that Hut already voted on it. So I'm surprised that they haven't voted on it yet. So I'm guessing things will go through without a problem there, but it's still interesting that it's taking them that long to vote on it. Okay. Let's take a look at Hut 8's production update here. So Hut 8 mining production and operations update for October 2023. And here is what we have for them. They mined 112 Bitcoin in October. They sold 365 Bitcoin, so 66 Bitcoin produced in July, all of August and September's production, and 85 Bitcoin produced in October, which is a little, well, I guess they're keeping track of all the stuff and when they're selling it. But it is obviously interesting that they're selling it now. Obviously, Bitcoin is up a little bit here, so it kind of makes sense. But nonetheless, I'm surprised they're not selling it monthly instead of just waiting for it. But in the long run, it might be a good thing for them to wait a couple months, depending where Bitcoin goes. If Bitcoin goes down, south, well, it might not be that great. Okay, so a little surprised by that. The total balance of Bitcoin in reserve was 9,113. That's still really good here. Installed ASIC hash rate capacity at our Alberta facilities was still 2.6 exahash. They were operating, not for the full month. They didn't provide any updates as far as the miner repairs that they were doing at one of their facilities as well. Nothing there. Let me see here. Corporate update. We talked about this news that they had put in a staking horse bid on 310 megawatts of gas power plants in, I think this was, where was this? Ontario. Let's see what else we have here. I think that was it. They just kind of rehashed some of the news that they already provided earlier. Okay. Let's take a look at the numbers that I do have for them. And they are right there. Going up here. Okay, so Hut 8 has currently 221 million shares outstanding. When they do merge with USBTC, they will have a reduction in shares. We'll have to find out what the actual number is going to be when that does happen. Stock price currently is at $2.29. Market cap of 500 million. Their performance over the last 12 weeks has been pretty good. I mean, they're up Last week, they were up 11.32%. 4 weeks from there, they were up 37.6%. And then from 8 weeks ago, they're up 12.4%. In the 12 weeks, however, they are down 1.7%. So they're kind of bouncing back up to where they were from 12 weeks ago. Current hash rate is 2.6 roughly exahash. The future hash rate I have at 7.5. That's basically with the USBTC merger there. So they will be growing when that does happen. We'll get a jump, obviously, in the hash rate for them. Bitcoin HODL, that should be updated. That was, what, 9,113. 9,113. That represents about 319 million right now. BTC mine monthly, you can see that they've been kind of going up a little bit here since August. August was pretty much their worst month, where they only mined 103 Bitcoin. September was better, 111, and then obviously October was 112. So they're getting a little bit better on that. I think they're curtailing less as the winter months come in, colder months. So that's looking good there. You can see last year in October, they were 299. And so definitely a huge decline here from where they were last year. But obviously Bitcoin price has gone up quite nicely, so that's helping them out on the revenue side of things. You can see the month-over-month difference here as far as how much they mined. BTC HODL did peak here in September, basically 9,366, and then they sold 365, whatever it was, this month. And then BTC per exahash efficiency, pretty flat around the 40s. Looks like right now over the last 5 months or so. BTC sold, you can see they sold 365, which is quite a bit here. It's more than they sold here over the last year, or at least the most in 1 month they sold. Now you can see their hash rate. Hash rate has been kind of flat here as well at 2.6 exahash over the last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months or so. Monthly BTC revenue, as you can see also from last October of 2022, they had 5.8 million in revenue. They only had 3.31 million right now in October 31. So definitely a big decrease there on the revenue side of things. Hash rate difference, month over month, you can see that. BTC sold value, they sold an American, if you convert it over, it's like 10.8 million roughly. So that's definitely more than they've sold here every other month, or any other month that they've sold. We'll take a look at the revenue or the quarterly results when they do provide those coming up here. And then we got the institutions here. So institutions did increase to 188. Shares, however, did go down to 34.28 million, and that represents 15.46% of the shares outstanding. They still have 1 strong buy rating, 0 buy ratings, 1 hold rating, 0 underperform, 0 sell. Price target for the analyst is $3.46 for the high, $2.46 for the average, and $2.01 for the low. As far as operational side of things, based on my calculations, in October, they were running for about 20.4 days out of the month, which had 31 days here in October. So, yeah, definitely curtailed quite a bit. I think it's also part of that. I can't remember the facility now, forgive me. But they had issues with the miners where they had electrical issues, and they were working to repair those. And they also have, obviously, what was that? Oh, gosh, the other facility that they had an issue with, Validus, where they had to remove miners from there. That didn't help any either. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So based on all of this, looking at the current quarter that we're in right now, which is obviously Q4, and then looking at the Q3 estimate that I have for them, along with the actual numbers for Q2 and Q1, I have them between 94 cents and $1.41. If we're going backwards, they're at $2.29. I think they're overvalued right now, but we do know that they're going to be merging with USBTC, which is going to definitely lift them up. So I can see why they're being valued the way they are. And then if we look at future revenue based on if Bitcoin stays at this price range, network hash rate stays at this price range, or not price, network hash rate just stays where it's at, and they continue to basically generate the same amount of revenue going into the halving event as they did in October. We're looking at 5 months before the halving event at 100%, and then 5 to 7 months after the halving event at 50%. We're looking at basically 64 cents to 95 cents because revenue obviously is going to drop dramatically there. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Right now, I say they're kind of overvalued, but like I said, because of the USBTC merger, they could be maybe fairly valued here, right? Or a little bit undervalued based on that. Okay, so let me know what you guys think of this one, and let's get into the next one. Next one's going to be on Bit Digital. It's going to be a quick one here. Bit Digital in October 2023, the company produced 111.6 BTC. It's a 14% decrease compared to the prior month. Here's a reasoning for it. The decrease was primarily driven by an increase in network difficulty, a power utility mandated maintenance outage that temporarily reduced operating hash rate at one location, and the relocation of miners from one hosting location following the conclusion of that hosting agreement. So we've heard about that before. They actually provided the news on it, and I think they were going with, oh gosh, I can't remember now. I know they were going with one of the other miners that we cover here, I believe, or was it Soluna that they were going with? I can't remember now. Got too many companies in my mind and too much information going and floating around in it. The company's active hash rate was approximately 2 exahashes of October 31st. The treasury holdings of BTC was 511.1, and they had 16,222 of Ethereum on there. Okay, and that is it. And then talk about proof of staking, and that's about it. So pretty sweet and short update here. Let's take a look at Bit Digital on my numbers here as well, and we got that correct. 511, right? Want to make sure. Yep. Always want to double check. So they have 85 million shares outstanding right now. Stock price is at $2.24. Market cap 190 million. They've done pretty well, kind of like Hive has done over the last 8 weeks. The 12 weeks is a little bit different here. But last week they were up 12.9%. 4 weeks ago they're up 15.4%. And from 8 weeks ago they're up 1.8%. And then 12 weeks ago they're only down 11.8%. Their current hash rate is at 2 exahash, future hash rate 2.1. So they're pretty much almost fully installed here for the most part. Bitcoin HODL is 511, so that's valued at almost 18 million roughly. BTC production here has been coming down ever since in August. August they were at 139. Then in September they were 130. Now they're down to 111. And you can see the BTC mined month over month on this chart down here. BTC HODL reached 821 here in September. They sold quite a bit here in October, which I'm surprised. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we hear some news of them possibly buying more miners. We'll have to see if that actually comes out. BTC per exahash has been coming down as well. They're at 55.7 right now. BTC sold, you can see here that 422 is what they sold in October. So that's definitely more than they sold here all year, each month. Not each month combined, but you know what I mean. They sold 382 in February of this year as well. That was the previous high of what they sold. Okay, hash rate. They've been kind of up and down here beginning of the year since last year, and then they increased nicely in June here and in August as well, and they've been kind of flat ever since then. Monthly Bitcoin revenue here peaked in July with 4 million, and they've been coming down in revenue since then. That's not a good trend that we want to see. Monthly hash rate difference, so much of those things month to month have changed. And then BTC's sold value, they sold about 12.48 million in October, which is, again, the most they've sold here of any month here. Last 4 quarters, we'll take a look at that when they report quarterly results. Going to institutions here. Institutions stayed the same. Shares did decrease here by only like 100,000, 120,000 roughly, to 26.89 million from 26.97. Percentage of shares owned is now down a little bit here to 30.46 instead of 30.55. We still have 0 strong buy ratings, 3 buy ratings, 0 holds, 0 underperforms, 0 sells. Price target stayed the same at 450 for the high, 413 for the average, and 390 for the low. Okay, looking at their production here for the month of October, they were operating for approximately 26.38 days based on my calculations here, which got us to 3.03 million in revenue here based on the Bitcoin average price for the month of October and where the network hash rate kind of was beginning to end on it as well. So based on that, looking at the last 3 quarters, which the Q2 numbers, or sorry, Q3 numbers are estimated, Q2 are actual along with Q1. We're currently in Q4. Looking at those numbers based on 50% net income, having at $2.36 and 75% net income at $3.54. They're at $2.24. They're a little bit undervalued based on this. And then if we look forward, using October revenue numbers times the 5 months before the halving event and then the 7 months after at 50%, they would be at $1.65 to $1.48. So kind of fairly value based on that. Okay. So that's it for that one. Let me know what you guys think of this one. Like anybody else knows that my biggest thing is for the miners to grow into the halving event, cut expenses. This all goes for not only Bit Digital, for Hut, for Hive, for Core, anybody in general. But let me know what you guys think of this one. And the next one's going to be Core Scientific here. So Core Scientific announces October 2023 production and operations update. This is going to be pretty quick too as well. Main things here is the self-mining Bitcoin produced was 910 for the month. Their self-mining energized hash rate was 15.1. It's a slight increase there. And Bitcoin sold was 977. So they definitely sold quite a bit there. And the proceeds from that are approximately 28.8 million. there's not really much other than that. They kind of go over the data centers, the self-mining, co-location services, grid support, and that's about it. You guys can read that at your own leisure. So let's take a look at Core here really quick. Core Scientific. They are currently at 375 million shares outstanding. Stock price is at 69 cents. That gives them a market cap of 258.9, so basically 259 million. Their performance has been pretty good here over the last 12 weeks. It's definitely a little bit maybe better than some of the other ones. So they're up 1.4% from 12 weeks ago, up 2.9% from 8 weeks ago, up 32.6% from 4 weeks ago, and up 5.88% from last week. Current hash rate is at 15 exahash. Future hash rate, what we have right now, is at 15.2. We know that they're going to be getting some miners from Antminer, which is part of that restructuring deal that they're working with them on it. We don't know if that's going to be ratified, if that's going to be approved. If that does get approved, that's going to add them another, I think, 3 point something exahash, 3 or 4 exahash of additional miners for their self-mining, which will update that when it does happen, okay? But right now, they're pretty close to being fully installed. They don't hodl anything as far as Bitcoin, at least not reporting it. And then you can see here that their production here peaked for BTC in January of this year, where they reached 1,527 Bitcoin in the month, which is huge, right? But ever since then, they've been kind of coming down here to, well, now 910. And then last year, this time around, they were at 1,295. We also know that the network hash rate has been increasing for BTC, which results in lower production numbers for the miners. And it's definitely a pretty substantial decrease here for Core, right? So any miner that's not growing as well as the network hash rate or higher is going to see this downtrend in BTC production going forward. You can see the month-over-month difference there. BTC hodl, they did have a hodl last year. They had to sell a bunch of it because, well, they got into trouble, like a lot of miners did. And they were trying to get out of debt and everything else. Then you had also the Celsius debacle going on, bankruptcy and everything else last year. So that kind of fueled the fire towards them going under and going to restructuring through Chapter 11. Okay, BTC per exahash efficiency has been coming down as well. It hasn't been too bad. They're kind of like in the middle of the range here as far as miners are concerned. So that's not too concerning there. BTC sold, you can see that they've been pretty much selling everything that they mined and then some possibly as well for each month mostly. Hash rate difference, you can see that they did peak at approximately 17 exahash in January of this year, and then it came down. It looks like they were selling some miners or moving some miners or whatever. This is based on what they were reporting here. I think they were selling some of the miners, and then they were maybe buying some miners as well at a much lower cost, potentially. Revenue also peaked here in March at 35.41 million. They're down to 26.93 million. Right now, this is just for self-mining. This does not include hosting or anything like that. Hash rate difference month over month. BTC sold value, how much they've been selling each month. And then, obviously, the quarterly results here. You guys can take a look at that as well. But we'll get into that when they report the Q3 numbers, okay? Institutions did increase here a little bit to 25 from 23. The shares stayed pretty much the same. They're down about 100,000 or so from 15.44 million to 15.34 million. Percentage went down a little bit here to 4.01% from 4.04. We do now have 3 hold ratings on them. 0 underperforms, 0 sells. Price target is the $1 still. Average is 75 cents, and the low is 50 cents for them. Going down here as far as what they had operating, we can see that in October, they were operating for approximately 28.714 days on average, based on the number of miners that they have, the hash rate, Bitcoin average price, and that's how we got to the 26.9 million in revenue, which coincides with that based on the Bitcoin average price for the month of October. All right. Based on all this, now we do know that they are in Chapter 11 bankruptcy right now, restructuring. If they get out of this, which they're saying that they're going to get out of it possibly by the end of this year, I would think that the stock would be fairly valued between $4.89 and $7.33. Now, we don't know how much dilution is going to be on the shareholders after they get out of restructuring. That could put a dent on things as well. So we'll have to see, right, how that's going to turn out. That might obviously have an impact on this. If we get 50% dilution, you can cut those numbers in half, whatever those might be. And then if we look forward, we can see that their revenue has been coming down for the most part. Revenue has been coming, coming down from basically March and May has been coming down. So that's obviously going to have an impact going forward unless Bitcoin goes up in value. So if we look forward for the next 12 months, 5 months before the halving event, 7 months after the halving event. We looking at the numbers from excuse me, from October, what they generated in revenue, multiplying that times the 5 months, and then the 7 months of 50%. We got them at $3.05 to $4.57. That's if Bitcoin stays where it's at, network hash rate stays where it's at, which we know is not going to be the case. But this is kind of just to give you an idea of what would happen if that was the case. All right. So obviously, it would be nice to see them get out of this restructuring, get some more miners installed from Antminer. That would be great as well, going into the halving event. And then we'll just have to see what, like I said, what the actual dilution is going to be on shareholders that are currently holding. And then we'll get a better picture as far as where they should be possibly valued at. Okay. So let me know what you guys think of that one. And then finally, let's take a look at Hive here. So Hive Digital provides October 2023 production update and reaches 4 exahash target. So they reached their 4 exahash target for this year, which was a very small target to begin with. Unfortunately, I hate to say that because I am invested in them. I thought they were going to do better than the 4 exahash. They've been growing, but they've been growing slowly month over month. They need more facilities, I think. Things like that to grow even more than that. Because coming the halving event is going to be an issue, but they are diversifying into AI, things like that, which may be actually pretty good for them. We'll have to see when we do get the numbers for them. But here's what they provided here. Hive produced 265.9 Bitcoin in the month of October. This is from both ASIC, and they still have some GPU mining operations that are bringing in Bitcoin. Those brought in, let me see, I think they're putting that out down below on that one. Hive exceeded 4 exahash from excuse me, from ASIC mining capacity on certain dates throughout the month, achieving a peak of approximately 4.13 exahash from a combined ASIC and GPU mining capacity. Throughout October, the total hash rate has fluctuated due to reconfigurations at our various data centers and arrival of new machines. So that's good there. Going down here, 3.87 exahash of BTC and hash rate as of October 31st, comprised of 3.834 exahash of ASIC BTC hash rate and 0.136 of GPU hash rate there. And let's see here. I thought it was some I know it's listed in here someplace. If you guys read it, they'll share how much they actually generated from ASIC mining and then from GPU mining as well. Bitcoin Global Network mining. And that's about it for that one. So let's take a look at the numbers that I do have for them. And then we'll take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners today, which was kind of interesting today for those guys. So Hive has 84 million shares outstanding. Stock price is at $3.31. Market cap is at 278 million. They're doing pretty much like the rest of the miners here. From 12 weeks ago, they're down 11%. From 8 weeks ago, they're up slightly, 5.7. From 4 weeks ago, they're up 16.8. And then from last week, they had a pretty good week at 13.61% to the upside. Let's see. The current hash rate is at 3,894. Their BTC HODL, they didn't provide that in there. I'm guessing it's still the same at 2032. I'm guessing that they're selling what they mine, which could be wrong. But they didn't provide us with any of the data, which they used to do that all the time, which is kind of frustrating that they stopped doing that. But nonetheless, their future hash rate is pretty much fully installed right now. They're about 4 exahash roughly in operations. There's not much growth left, obviously. We'll have to see if they continue to grow beyond this. They do have the HODL BTC of 2032, which is represented at about 71 million in cash. And their BTC production here has been kind of up and down. You can see that while they were growing their hash rate a little bit here, a couple months back, their BTC production has been going up, and then it's coming back down a little bit here to 265. You can see the month-over-month BTC difference here, how much they were down today. They're down 29 Bitcoin from last month. And then their BTC HODL has reached in October of last year of 3,311. And then it dropped down here in December, up a little bit here in January, then down, 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 down again in May and June. Stayed flat, and then last time they reported on their HODL was in July, and that's kind of where we have them at right now at 2032. BTC per exahash efficiency has been coming down, but they're still one of the top efficient miners here as far as production is concerned. And they're always pretty much within like the first top 3 miners for efficiency, which is great to see. But I would love to see them grow more than what they are growing right now. Okay, monthly BTC sold. You can see that they sold quite a bit here in December of last year, 1,117. But overall, throughout this year, they've been selling on average around 300 some Bitcoins here. If you take out the peaks here, maybe around 275, something like that on average. Hash rate, you can see that their hash rate has been growing nicely here. We had a little bit of a decrease here at the end of last year from when they were mining with GPU, Ethereum. That obviously got canned for them because it went to proof of stake. As a result, their hash rate was coming down, but then they started going back up, which is nice. So they still went up about double from where they were last year in December. So they added an extra roughly 2 exahash, which is still good. But we're seeing other miners that are growing by 6, 8, 10 exahash, 12 exahash. So they definitely need to keep up here or they will be left behind. So we'll see how things progress going forward. Monthly mining revenue, you can see it peaked here in May with 8.38 million. Then it's been kind of flat around between 7 and 8 million here ever since then. They're at 7.87 million right now. Hash rate growth month over month, you can see how much that has grew. BTC sold value, how much they were selling. Quarterly results, we'll take a look at that when the quarterly results come out. Institutions stayed the same. However, the shares went down to 14.08 from 14.17 million. And percentage went down to 16.12 from 16.47. We still have 1 strong buy rating, 2 buy rating, 0 holds, 0 underperforms, 0 sells. Price targets are still $7 for the high, $6.26 for the average, and $4.78 for the low on them. Now, I did take out some miners here from them, some of the older miners in October, and those were, let me see here, these over here, the 90 terahash miners. I got rid of those, and I added pretty much the rest of the miners that they had over here, the 120 terahash miners, so 1,000 of those roughly. That got us to in October to roughly being at 3.9. They're saying 4 or 3.8 something for the A6. We're not including the GPUs right now in here. But we did have to add GPU revenue into it to make it all sense. So they generated approximately 408,000 from GPUs. Everything else was running for 31 days here, except for the 20 days that the new miners were installed here. Okay, and that's how we got to the 7.868 million for them, which is what we got here based on the Bitcoin network hash rate and the Bitcoin price average for October. Now, based on that, looking at the last 3 months, last 3 quarters, plus the current quarter that we're in, we have them at $5.36 to $8.04. They're currently at $3.31. I do think they're undervalued. Going forward, they would be at $3.97 to $5.96. Again, that's if we use the same, like I always say. I feel like I'm repeating this because, well, kind of have to because some of you guys are using chapters down below to skip to it. So I do want to point this out that this is based on the 5 months before the halving event at 100%, and then 7 months after the halving event at 50%, also with Bitcoin staying the same for the price and network hash rate if that is the case. Obviously, we know that's not going to be the case. Things will change going forward, okay? But that's kind of where I'm looking at right now on that one. With them, it's the same thing with everybody else. They got to grow. They're actually very efficient as far as their capital expenses are concerned, so that's not a concern for them as much as it might be for some of the other ones. But they do need to grow. I hate to say this, but they do need to grow more into the halving event and possibly after the halving event a little bit, while prices are still pretty low on miners. So I'm surprised they're not looking at other places to buy up or invest in, build out, because they do have a pretty strong balance sheet as it is, 75 million on hand as of Q2 numbers. And their debt was very low. So they do have the ability, if they wanted to go and invest in other facilities or build out whatever they wanted to do. Okay, so that's it for the miner updates here. We'll have, I think it's DMG, we'll do tomorrow. That just came out a little bit ago. But let's take a look at the Bitcoin miners, see how they did today, and Bitcoin, which is kind of, I was surprised by it, but not really. But nonetheless, the spreadsheets will be available to my Patreon members as always. Thank you to everyone there for their continued support on this. And like it's always, $5 right now. And I think it's a great deal, great value to get that updates whenever I update the spreadsheets. And then you also have the access to the Discord private channel that we have in there, which is great as well. All right, let's take a look at Bitcoin network here, or not Bitcoin network, Bitcoin price right now. So Bitcoin actually was up a little bit here today. It was up 0.07%. It was up barely. But nonetheless, it was still up on the day, and it closed at 35,059. However, the miners were going down. So this kind of plays into my theory that until the halving event, or unless we get some kind of a shock event, which might be like the SPY Bitcoin ETF, the miners are going to continue to kind of drag down instead of going even with Bitcoin or even outperforming it. So I've seen this before. I've seen it last week. I've seen it other times as well, where Bitcoin was kind of flat, but the miners are still dropping in value and price. So I just wanted to point this out to you guys to be mindful of this, that this could still be an occurrence like we saw last halving event, where a year before the Bitcoin miners were going down in price while Bitcoin is actually going up in value, which was kind of interesting to know. But I can see why things are going down, well, especially with the miners before the halving event, because as we looked at yesterday's video, we saw how much they're going to need, or where they're going to need Bitcoin to be profitable based on the numbers from Q2. Right, we'll do an update on that when we get Q3 numbers to see if things change a little bit for that. But it's obviously a concern for investors, I believe, that the miners are going to lose 50% of their revenue. They're going to need Bitcoin being much higher, and the Bitcoin network also growing up quite substantially is a concern. So be prepared to possibly dollar cost average in a little bit more if you need to get your costs down on some of the miners that you might own. That is something that I'm definitely going to be doing. All right. So as you can see here, the miners were down for the most part. The only one that was up today was, surprisingly, Soluna was up 7.65%, and Greenidge was up 5.65% as well, while everybody else was down a couple percentage points, 5, 6, 7, 8%, something like that. So just be mindful of that. Prices could continue to come down unless we get a shock in the system, like a spot Bitcoin ETF or something else that would possibly drive things up, right? As long as Bitcoin starts going ballistic, the miners will do that as well. But as long as Bitcoin kind of wades water a little bit right now, like it's doing, we may be coming down on the share prices on some of these miners as well. Okay. So that is it. Let me know what you guys thought of it all. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I think we're getting close to some of the miners also reporting their Q3 numbers, which is going to be fun and interesting to take a look at those. And then we'll obviously compare the miners for the month of October once we get all those reported. And we'll also take a look at the Q3 metrics on all the miners once that's all reported, which might take a couple more weeks before we get all that through. All right. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then,